mess with anything. Thanks so much for having me, and it's so nice to put faces to the names that are part of the group text. I don't make it up here very often. I'm in La Mesa, but it's just a wonderful apostolate. It's a mission that you run, and it's really beautiful, very important. I truly believe in prayer. That's what has saved my life many times. That would be another talk. The number of times Erica could have died. And I'm not joking about that. But prayer was one thing that got me through a very difficult time. And actually, have you seen the movie yet?
I haven't seen the entire
Okay, because it's not that hard to watch. It's very important to me.
I didn't mean that. I meant the parts that are the altercations.
Sure. But that's what I'm talking about, because I don't believe in having someone watch something that's very difficult. There are a couple movies where I'm like, I can't go see that. You're taking me really deep in, and that's painful. And why do that? It's like, so I knew how to do it where you know what's happening. You know what's next. You don't have to see a lot. And that's important, I think. And it really is an anointed film because it really was brought from suffering to help others. And, there are statistics, and I'll share because it is important. And I'm not a scholar on abuse, but I just looked it up, and I'm like, well, it's probably more than this. But in the United States, these are statistics in the U.S., 4 in 10 women and 3 in 10 men have experienced physical, sexual, or stalking violence by an intimate partner. That's a lot. And even just, they did a study during the epidemic, or pandemic, same thing, and high school students in the U.S., half of were experiencing emotional abuse from an adult or parent in the home. Half. So it's really something that's extremely prevalent. 1 in 4 women and 1 in 9 men have experienced severe physical violence in their lifetime. So I know that it's not a strange story that someone's, goes through abuse. How many of you either know someone close to you or yourself have gone through some kind of abuse in your life? Okay, not very many. Okay, a few. When I would talk to people, because you talk about your film before you make it, because you're trying to meet people and trying to find people that you need and trying to raise money, and just strangers, I would say 8 out of 10, I would tell them it's about a woman who's in an abusive marriage, that she doesn't quite see it, and it takes help to understand that God's not wanting her to stay in abuse. But because of her Catholic vow, she believes she needs to stay in it. And 8 out of 10 people that I would talk to, at least 8, would say, I totally get that. I was in that. Or someone very close to me was in that. So my own statistics show me this is really prevalent. And really the whole reason this film needed to be done was to help people. Like if they relate to Andy's the main character, that maybe they have to look at something. And this film, actually showed it to the head of family marriage life at the diocese, loves this film, showed it to some of his ministry people so that they could use it for engaged couples or retrograde or, really anyone who's in a relationship, because it brings up important aspects from what we've experienced, relationships, and how to have, healthy marriages. So it really does serve a purpose. And as a filmmaker, I found it very important to show how beautiful the Catholic Church is. That's why I wanted to put it on that one. So this is in LA. It was filmed in LA. I lived there for about 7 years. And God is so good. I never would have guessed if you had asked me. So I've been back in town 2 years. But if you had said, you're going to do this, you're going to make a film, I'm like, no, that's not what I do. I act, and I've been acting for about 13 years. And I had made about 3 short films. But it's really different to go from a weekend 12-minute film to a feature film. And my yes, because Jennifer wanted to know, what was your yes? Why did you make this film? And so I wanted to let you know, I did not say yes. I said, no, I don't think so. And let me explain, I was in a writing program. So I basically lived this. I like to say I lived it. I wrote it, directed, produced, and acted in it. So when I was in this writing program, one of our assignments was to write a film, and so I chose to do a feature film. And it was a totally different story. It was kind of made up, sprinkled with things that I knew. And they say, write what you know. So I sprinkled in a troubled marriage. And then as you have more and more people read because you have to as a writer, and you have to edit, rewrite, probably about 1,000 drafts before this thing is finished. And they'd say, I want to know more about that marriage. I'm like, no, I don't really want to write about that. That's the real stuff, and I don't want to do that. So I was writing this other film. And then little by little, I started to realize God was calling me to write my story. And we all have many stories, right? This is just one part of something I can share, but it really was a passion project. And I knew it needed to be done. And you have to be like steadfast. I'm gonna do this, or a film does not get produced otherwise. And that's a whole long story I won't get into. All the ups and downs and the spiritual battle and the miracles that happen. It's a lot to cover. But I knew that God wanted to touch people, and media is very powerful. And the blessing to me is when someone says, thank you, I watched it, and this is how it helped me. So for yourself or anyone that you think of, I mean, it has a lot of topics, from forgiveness to healing to prayer, the annulments, just there's a lot of things. And again, how beautiful the Catholic Church is. There's a lot of Protestant movies, but where do we really see how beautiful, a priest, helping, the church being there, a friend praying with you, but in the Catholic sense, with the beauty of the sacraments. And I wanted to put so much more in. I mean, I wanted to make it a series to really delve into why is that person like that, the husband. There's a lot to learn and understand, but it was enough to fund a feature film, so that was enough. So anyway, the yes wasn't this exuberant, yes, Lord, let's do this. It was a no. And then it was okay, maybe, but you better show me how to do this. And then it eventually became I know this is going to happen because I can't do it, but God has given me repeatedly showing me and telling me that this needs to be done. And so even to when a friend of mine stood in front of me, it was 3 weeks before filming, and she said, you can't do this. You don't have the funding, enough funding. You just lost your lead male actor. Like, you just pretty much the saying you should call it quits. And it was such a special moment for me because I had this confidence, not in myself, but I said, when this gets done, not if, but when this gets done, it's going to be by the grace of God, because I know He's calling me to do this. And really a blessing for me was I didn't expect this, but I was writing it to help other people, but I didn't know I had more healing to go through. So when I was pulling out my journal, because I journaled a lot to keep sane when I was going through this marriage and divorce, I later ripped things up. I was ready to heal, and I burned my wedding album and things that you just have to do. But for some reason I knew, hold on to that journal you just ripped up, because then years later I would go and tape it back up and try to read and figure out, like, I couldn't remember. Your brain kind of blurs to real things that are happening. I think it's to protect yourself and to just not go there. And I had forgotten about a lot of things. So it was really hard, and it got to a point where I did not want to continue writing. Like, this is rehashing. Why would I put myself through this? And I had a friend of mine say, you're doing this to help other people, right? Yes. She goes, then you need to keep going. And that's all it took for me to just pick it back up and continue. And I realized it really was another bit of healing and forgiveness that I needed to go through. And I thought I was done. Like, it's been years, and I was done. Like, do you ever think I'm done with that one, and then it comes up again later, and like, oh shoot, I'm not quite done. And that's okay. It's part of the onion, right? I have to think of the layers of an onion. So thank God for that, because I did have more healing to do. And I needed to be, I hate to say this and quantify it, but I needed to be so healed that I could then act the part and not be triggered by anything. And that's exactly what happened. It was amazing. It was miraculous. And a really cool thing, if you watch the movie, I got to do something in the movie I didn't get to do in real life, and that was actually have a forgiveness scene. sometimes we can't have that with people, just not possible, and that's okay. We still do our work with God. But that was kind of a fun thing. That was the Holy Spirit gave me the scene. I'm like, oh my gosh, brilliant. So it was really neat to be able to do that. So that's the yes, and the reason behind it was basically to try to help other people see that and grow closer to God. So one friend, she recently saw it. She wrote me this long text after seeing it, and she had never shared with anybody what she had gone through, which was a similar situation. And I couldn't believe that. You know, her child's grown, and it's been years, but it doesn't matter how much time has gone by. There's healing for us, and the timing was good for her. And this was a great tool that she could use to heal even more. So for me, it totally confirms that I was meant to suffer and bleed for this film, because if it helps other people, that's exactly what the purpose was. That's a little bit about, you know, the why. And so the 7 years I was there, I think I didn't finish this thought. The 7 years I was in LA was pretty much the whole time it took me to make this film. And I never would have thought. I went there because I'd already been traveling San Diego, LA for 3 years, every week for acting gigs. And so I went there to do acting. I wasn't going to make films. But it's just so cool how God qualifies the called, because I never would have thought. And when you look at like, the little resources you have, God can just multiply that. So it really is something I can say, it wasn't me, it wasn't my ability, it was God's plan, and I was blessed enough to be a part of it. Doesn't make it easy, no, but I grew so much, and I wouldn't have it any other way. And you were asking if I'm, you know, looking to make other films. I've had the opportunity to produce a couple others, and I couldn't bring myself to do it. I just went through so much to make this. I just had nothing left. In fact, the whole first year I came back to San Diego, I felt like I just had to heal. I had to heal from all of LA. And just be back in my Catholic world was just, thank you, Lord. I never thought I'd move back here, so that was just such a gift. So I did give up a couple opportunities, and actually those films got some awards, so I could have been a part of that, but I just didn't have it in me. So right now I'm still continuing acting, no films in mind at this point. But totally exciting. So I have English captioning, you know, when you see the captions. You know, I wore a lot of hats for this film, and I also was doing the closed captioning. So I did that, and then just recently saw there were some mistakes. So I fixed those up, and because also I was going to do Spanish dubbing. But long story there, but I'm not going to do Spanish dubbing, but there will be closed captioning in Spanish. So I'm almost done with that, and pay a company to do the formatting and translate. And then I asked a friend to help me with some phrases, because my Spanish isn't as good as hers. But I'm really excited to have it available for people who speak Spanish. So my distributor will send it to, you know, to Latin American people and a market here. So that's something that's happening right now. It'll be done this week. And you know, I went through the film circuit with it, and it won. I mean, it didn't win. Well, it actually did win at one of them, best inspirational film. But it was selected in 7 different film festivals. And you know, it is a tough topic. And so sometimes we're like, well, we want, you know, action. We want comedy. I'm like, no, this is the story. This is what it is. And I came across people who were like, you know, if we just take out a little bit of the Catholic and we do this, I'm like, no, thanks. You know, so I really had to give up some big opportunities. Someone wanted to put an A-list actor for Andy, and that would have been really great. So I'm like, no, God's calling me to give every part of myself that I can possibly give. And I was willing and wanting to do that. The financial part, I'm like, gosh, you're calling me to do this too? Like, my savings is what like protects me, but I just really had to trust and surrender. And I had my moments, and I'll just share one, because I was on the ground, sobbing. I had just completed, we did 13 days of filming, and not to mention the whole like year of intensely working on it. And then things happened with my editor, lost my editor. So there it is, sitting, I have the film, but it's not put together. It's just the raw. and I have no one. I don't even know who to call to help me from like wanting to disappear from this world. It was just that bad, and I just got on the ground and I just cried out, I'm like, Lord, help me. I don't know what you want me. Did I just waste all my money, all my time? I told people I was doing this. It's not going to happen. So I went through moments like that. That was a really bad moment. And then things kind of turn around. It wasn't the best editor I got afterwards. That was a whole nightmare after that, of being with that person for 6 months. It was insane. And I questioned every bit of it. But I'm like, gotta keep going. I gotta keep pushing. For whatever reason this is happening. And that one I still don't have an answer as to why that had to happen. And maybe I'll never know the answer to that. But it just kept me praying, and it kept me believing and surrendering. So that's it in a nutshell. I guess I didn't really cover a lot of my own. Okay, I forgot something kind of important. Again, I'm not an expert on this, but for me, what I believe, so one of the people who was reading one of the writing groups, someone said, they didn't know it was based on my story, and they said, this isn't believable. Why would she stay? That's what he says. And I'm sitting there on the other side of the screen going, yeah, well, it's me, and I did. And so if you haven't been through it, God bless, that's wonderful to not have. So I break it down to 3 things. First, and could be common or could be totally not someone's situation, but mine was, if you grow up in it. So I had the mom who was the aggressor, slap your face and tell you you're a terrible daughter. And you go to your room like wondering, what did I do? You're just a kid. And then the dad that just looks the other way because he can't handle conflict. So that was, other than amazing things. I mean, my parents are great people in many ways. It's just, we had that. So growing up in that, then you choose, sadly, not the best partners because it's what you know. Someone who does one thing and says another, and it just messes with you, but it's kind of what you're comfortable with, it's what you grew up with, sadly. So a lot of people have grown up in that. And then second, you don't really see it. And that's why it's called Insight. This title is like the best title. It has multiple meanings, and if you watch it, you'll understand another one. But insight, and some people say, what's the name of it? Insight, like God's wisdom. I always say that, whether they're a Christian or not. It's like, it's God's wisdom, looking inside. So when you were in the abuse, and I'm sorry to use this image, I've never liked it, we should come up with a better one, but you know the image of the frog who's in the warming water in a pot and doesn't leave because he doesn't know it's getting to be boiling. If it's just boiling from the start, you would jump out. But you don't see that. They're manipulating, they're brainwashing you, and it's just really unfortunate. So, because you don't see it. And I literally knew about and was teaching about annulments, and I never put it together that my marriage was that bad off. But it was. And the movie shows like who helped me to understand and to see. So as friends of maybe people that you might know, it's really important to know that, to speak up. And ever since I've gone through what I've gone through, I spoke up twice to people. I'm like, I don't think you should marry this person. I could be wrong, please pray on it. I always say that. And both of those ended in divorce, and they didn't listen. And maybe I wouldn't have listened, but it would have been maybe helpful for someone to say, I see what's happening, and this is not, because people would say later, like, I saw the red flags, I'm like, I couldn't see it. So that's the second one, you don't see it. And this person really lied about a lot of things. So after I was married, then things started to come up, and I'm like, oh, well, too late now, I made a mistake, and this is my life. So that was my understanding. And then, let's see, what's my third one? So you grow up in it. Second one is you don't see it. Oh, well, the Catholic vow. Like, this is my promise to God. This is my promise to this person. And I really had to understand, and it's scriptural, that because of man, we do have divorce. And I went through the annulment, and it was amazing. And I had lots of conversations with people of how beautiful an experience, because they're like, oh, I don't want to go through that, or I don't need to, and I always tell people it's just so freeing, and it's so important before you even consider dating to be really free and annulled. So I just fell in love with the church even more during that time. It was really a struggle. I was working for the church. I was in charge of RCIA, and what shame that I'd be going through a divorce. Like, no, anything but this. And I had to let go of all that. And that's, and I was already in healing prayer. Healing prayer is beautiful. It's basically just praying for someone for whatever they need healing for. And that's it. It's so simple. It's just prayer. But I started a ministry at St. Bridget's and led that for about 15 years before I moved to LA, so now it's in a couple other people's hands right now. But saw miracles left and right, and that was really one of my saving graces was being prayed over and just knowing that God had a plan. Because when you're in the midst of it, you just don't know where it's going, and I went through a really rough time. But yes.
So for everyone here has not seen the movie, so beginning, middle, and end, can you give like the storyline? Like just the storyline and help us understand it? The couple and the background and.
Yes. Okay. So they're in their marriage, and you see signs of what's happening in her life, and the therapist and the time that they're kind of trying to work through this, and it's really her journey of how is this? Why is this? What am I supposed to do? I was prayerful, and this is me in real life. I was prayerful about this. How could it have gone wrong? Like, I thought this was where you guided me, so I gotta make it work. It must be me. I'm wrong if I can't make this work. And then it's just the journey of realizing, okay, I have to be able to let go. And keep in mind, in a film, some things have to change, obviously, because it's an hour and 40 minutes to try and cover, 2.5 years. So you have to leave a lot of things out. Like 2 priests became 1 priest. 3 betraying friends are 1. Like, you just can't have that many characters. And I have to change around the order of things a little bit, just for cinematic and for proper writing. But so that's the gist of it, is her journey with God, so that we relate to Andy and where we are in various parts of our lives. So I hope
at what point does she decide it's time to leave?
And that's the part that's a little bit different. So, okay, you want spoiler alerts? Okay. But please still watch.
So
it's on Amazon and Tubi and a few other things. And I was going to bring some DVDs. I have like 2, so if anybody wants to buy one. So in the real story, and actually the conversation is verbatim. So pretty much like 90% of this film is correct, is verbatim. And you say based on a real story just to protect yourself. Like, I was really scared to do this. I'm like, if this person I was with sees this, I could be sued, I could be who knows what. And you just have to trust. I'm like, okay. So in the true story, I went through hell and back and back and back and back to try to make it work. And gone to 2, 3 different counselors. I was always the one doing that. And I finally realized this person I'm with does not, it was just this.
What was the moment?
Yeah, I'm getting to that. I realized this person did not respect women, so he was on a wait list for this male therapist who had helped people before. Went to go see him, and it was probably like the 3rd session, and this doesn't happen, so this is God speaking. He said, in my 30 years of counseling over 1,000 couples, I have said this 5 times. You 2 need to divorce. And it was like, oh, dagger. But it was also like, I got it. I hear you. After 2 years of struggle. I mean, it felt like 20 years. Every moment. So that was it. At that moment, I got it. There we go.
The priest told you it was time.
No, it was a therapist.
A therapist.
But thank you for that. The priest I was working for, I had a couple priests. One of them said, because I told him we were separated at the time. In my mind, it's like 2 weeks. This will wake him up. We'll work on this. I'll get to you 1 second. And that's maybe how it can work, but not for me. So that priest, who's still at our Mother Conference, wonderful priest, said to me, well, sometimes it turns to divorce. I'm like, what? Like, that is not even a thought. And I realized that's a possibility, a God possibility. So he broke that window for me to be able to see, and I owe him my life.
Yeah.
Because I probably wouldn't be alive today.
Erica, thank you so much for sharing this with us. I really appreciate it. I'm sorry for what you went through.
Oh, I'm sorry, you did have a question.
I have a very important question.
Yes.
Do you have children?
That is a very good question, very important, because that is different for everyone and whether they, you know, what happens and what is showing the kids, because you're trying to stay in for the
Because
kids.
that's what I worry about. What are you teaching your children that they are living that reality of watching their mother being abused and putting up with it?
Right.
And not telling them, right, you don't have to put up with this.
Yeah.
This is what you do. God forbid you're ever in this situation. You walk.
Well, and to answer your question, I had wanted kids, and I didn't find out until we got married that he did not. We talked about raising them Catholic, not whether you want them. That's one of the grounds for annulment. And when I saw someone, actually in the movie it's different, you'll see who that one is, but in real life it was the one who was leading our music choir. I was singing at St. Bridget's. And when I saw our lead guitarist, he was leading the group, it's ingrained in my brain. He had his wife there and he had his 2 little kids, precious, they were so little at that time. And they were running around, you know, he could be like, hey, I'm working, you know. He just loved on them. And they didn't know what I was going through. I was in tears every day. They had no idea. I looked at that scene and I wanted to bawl because I knew the person I was with would not love a child of ours like that. And that was more of a wake-up call for me, was he won't love my child. I wasn't even thinking, he doesn't love me. He doesn't care about me. And that's when I'm like, something's really wrong. I've got to figure this out. So no, we didn't have children.
Just as well,
Yeah, and people actually, and knowing me that I really wanted kids, they would say, what a blessing, and I'd say yes. Because that would have been a whole nother, I don't know what I would have done in that situation. I might have fled to another country, or I would have shot him so he would hurt my child. I mean, I honestly don't know. That's how whacked out it can be. So God knew and had a better, and so now I just play a mom a lot on TV. And
you wrote to write, tell them about your cycling. She's almost a professional.
Yeah, we have a mutual friend, and I cycle with her, and I'm part of San Diego Bike Club. I've been biking for 25, and you'll see that in the film too, just a little snippet of the bike. Because in the film, she says he doesn't want her to bike anymore, but in real life, it was surfing. I was a surfer, and he didn't want me to go surfing because it was with other guys. So I just kind of stopped and let that go. So not healthy, not a good thing. But yeah, cycling, and I've been praying a lot for all of you as I bike long hours. And November 22nd, I'm doing it's not a big deal. I've done a few, but it's been a few years doing a century ride that day. But it's a very prayerful thing for me to just be on the bike and just praying and evangelizing, because the people around me, like cyclists, are not faithful people. I don't know why. Did I endure it? How long? It was 2 years and 3 months. But honestly, it felt like 22 years. Yeah. So I'm grateful that it wasn't. And, you know, I was working for, one of the priests I was working for was the right-hand man to the bishop, so that kind of helps with getting into tribunal. And, I mean, not that he did anything different for the process, but it probably was better than it is now as far as how long it takes. Like, it just was very healing for me to get the divorce and to get the annulment. Like, that annulment for me was like new life.
Our priest here is a canon lawyer, so he deals with annulments as well.
Oh, good, yes. Yeah, so that's a beautiful process. But yeah, thank you for your questions, because there's a lot. There's a lot to it. But,
I always wonder when I see people in that situation and I see them with kids, and I'm like, what are you teaching your child, you know?
It's like they want to have the parents still there, but
no.
I know, exactly. Yeah, it's tough all the way around. But yeah, but I always use the phrase, by the grace of God. And then by the grace of God, this film could be completed and reach hearts. So,
and you never know, 10 years from now, it may be huge, right? I mean, it could be, or maybe next year. It's just about getting exposure, because there's not enough out there to really.
There isn't.
And we need more films to show Catholicism the normal Catholic life, that we put the sacraments when we're in trouble, when
Right.
we're getting ready to get married, when those big moments in life, that every Catholic knows to go back to the tabernacle.
Right.
And it's just wonderful that you did that.
Yeah, and there's that's the scene, not the trees, where she goes to the church to just have it out, you know, and in real life that happened at home, but that was just a beautiful spot. Yeah, I love that. That was very special in real life church to me. I was there during COVID, and this church saved my life. Well, actually, the first one they didn't stop doing mass. I mean, I'm a wreck without doing mass. And luckily, we had like underground mass at St. Francis de Sales. But then this church is St. Teresa, and I learned more in the 2 years. So I started going there in 2020. I learned more in those 2 years than I did in many years. That was such a devout priest. And it was a very close-knit group because we were out on the sidewalk, you know, with our chairs. We weren't allowed into that beautiful church. I didn't even know what it looked like until like Christmas time, 2 years later. Or maybe it was a year and a half. Anyway, so I've got 2 different churches in the film. This one, and then Our Lady of Grace, which is where I would go after this one. And that was also in LA. So
We have mass outside too.